Have you ever looked around and just wondered, in a country with so many leaders, why is it so incredibly hard to find someone who's actually responsible when things go wrong? It's this strange, frustrating puzzle. But today, we're going to unpack it. This single idea right here, this is the key that unlocks the whole thing. It's such a powerful statement because it perfectly frames the problem. See, it's not that we lack people in charge, it's that we have a system where authority is absolutely everywhere, but real responsibility is nowhere to be found. All right, let's dive right in. We're calling this first section the leadership paradox. We're going to investigate how it's even possible to have a system with so many official titles, but so few straight answers. I mean, just look at this. The sheer scale of it all. From the very top at the national level all the way down to your local city council, there are just layers upon layers of authority. Titles are everywhere you look. On paper, it seems like we should have every problem covered, right? But this sheer abundance? Well, that's the first big clue in our mystery. So, with that whole sea of titles we just saw, where does the accountability actually go? It doesn't just vanish by accident. In this next part, we're going to see how the system itself has these structural flaws that pretty much make responsibility disappear in a thin air. And this right here, this is the heart of that structural flaw. It's called representation without ownership. The idea is pretty simple. When you spread authority across so many different people and committees, you dilute responsibility until it's basically meaningless. You know, everyone's a little bit in charge, which means no one is fully in charge. And that leads directly to this next mechanism, blame diffusion. See, this isn't just a passive thing, it's an active process. The way our governance is structured actually encourages leaders to deflect, to point fingers, to pass the buck. It almost becomes a survival skill. This is what gives us the art of deflection. You've heard these a million times, right? Instead of answers, you get this frustrating maze of excuses. It's always someone else's fault, another department, the last government, the bureaucracy. It's a system where almost everyone with a title can plausibly say, hey, that's not my job. So what does this all lead to? Well, a totally broken incentive structure. I mean, think about it. Why would a leader take on the really hard, slow, thankless work of actual governance, like real structural reform, when it's so much easier and safer to just focus on performance? You know, symbolic actions, big announcements, and claiming credit. Those things are visible and they carry way less risk. It's not always a moral failure. It's just a rational reaction to a very flawed system. And the results of all this? We get stuck in what you could call the cynicism spiral. And this isn't just some abstract political theory. It has a very real, very human cost for every single one of us. It creates what feels like an illusion of choice. We go out, we vote, we change the people in charge, but so often, the fundamental problems just stay the same. When the faces in power change, but the outcomes in our lives don't, elections start to feel, well, symbolic. And that really erodes faith in the whole democratic process. This quote just nails it. When your vote doesn't seem to lead to any real consequences for the people in power, or any real change in your community, the result is this deep, corrosive disillusionment. And here's where it gets even deeper. These systems, they teach us how to behave. When we constantly see our leaders avoiding accountability and passing the buck, that behavior gets normalized. It seeps out at the culture of governance and right into the culture of society itself. It's not my fault becomes the default answer for everyone. Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. But it's not unsolvable. So let's shift gears. Let's look at this through a repair lens and see how other systems have actually managed to reconnect that broken link between power and responsibility. Now, the goal here isn't to say we should just copy-paste another country's model. Not at all. It's about understanding the core principle. Whether you're looking at Singapore's focus on really sharply defined, measurable responsibilities, or the one-task, one-owner rule they used in post-war reconstruction, the key is always the same: functional clarity. Someone has to be clearly, undeniably responsible for a specific outcome. So how can we adapt those lessons? The goal isn't some radical revolution that changes the whole democratic structure. It's about injecting some of that much-needed clarity and accountability right into the system we already have. So what would this actually look like? Well, here are a few concrete, adaptable ideas. First, and this is the big one, define outcome ownership. For every public service, from fixing a road to running a school, there has to be a single named person or office that is responsible for the results. Period. Second, reduce overlapping mandates. You have to simplify the system, Clear out redundant committees and make it obvious who's in charge of what so the buck passing can finally stop. And third, link tenure to performance. Make a leader's job depend not just on politics, but on whether they can actually deliver measurable results. And it's just as important to be clear about what won't work. Adding more committees and more layers, that's often the go-to solution, and it only makes the problem worse. Simply renaming positions, that's purely cosmetic. And constantly blaming the structure of federalism for every little failure, that's just another sophisticated form of blame diffusion. This right here, this is the central takeaway of this whole explainer. Real leadership is not a head count. It's not about how many fancy titles you have in the government. It's measured by one simple thing. Is there someone, anyone, who is clearly answerable when things go wrong? So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. Look at your own city, your own state, your own country. When you see a problem, can you point to the one person who truly owns that outcome? The one person who is on the hook for fixing it? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know about the health of your system.